I'm Sal Greco, president of Ceramic Manufacturing in Fort Worth, Texas. What you're about to see is an amazing piece of equipment that can make your life in clay a whole lot easier than it has been, and can be a lot more profitable because of increased production. Allow me to introduce you to the Texas Tiler. Texas Tiler is an air release tile press. Although we call it a tile press, it's probably more appropriate to call it a clay press, because the capabilities of this equipment is to make so many different products, of which tiles are only one. So, now, many of you may already know what an air release system is, but for those of you who don't, let me explain. The air release system is, as the name implies, air goes into our mold, forces water out of our mold, water comes out of the mold, and any clay that's stuck to the mold is going to be unstuck, if you will. Now, what we have is we have an air tube called mold duct tubing. Now, this air tube is extremely porous, and it has, it's kind of like a soaker hose in your garden. When air is forced into the tube, it escapes through all the various pores in the tube. Now, the tube, when we're making our die, several things that we need to make our die. We need a model. Here I have a skull and crossbones. That would be in our mold. And we have our air tubing woven onto a metal mesh to make sure that the entire surface of the mold is going to be affected by any air when we release it. So that the air tube is placed into the mold, and then it's poured. We mix ceramic cal, and we simply pour it into the rubber mold. When it sets up, we need to purge the mold. That is, we need to clean out the pores, and then, believe it or not, it's ready to go to work. So now that's kind of how the air release system works. We put clay in the mold, we clean it off, we turn it over so that it's upside down, turn on the air is going to release water, the water is going to release the clay, and then we're going to have a piece. Just that simple. Before we get into showing you how this actually does work, let me explain that with the Texas Tiler, you get a complete unit. That is, that unlike every other press company, we provide the means for you to make your own dies without needing additional casings. The dies fit the unit perfectly. You receive a urethane rubber mold. Of course, you'll have a tutorial. We'll have a video online. You'll get air tubing. You'll get paddle bats, a mallet. Believe it or not, this is what we press it with, and it's plenty forceful. Scraping boards. So you're all ready to go when you get your unit. It takes you a couple of minutes to set it up, and you're done. Now, we have an air connection that we'll put the air will go into the die, and we're ready to go. Now, the only thing that we have to make sure is that we have enough water. The two ingredients that are needed to make this thing work is air and water. If you take out either one of them, it won't work at all. Okay, so now, as I said, we can make tiles, or we can make other products. Here we have a die with some beautiful crosses in it, and we'll show you that in a few minutes. Now let's see how this thing works. Now, the first thing we're going to do is take a pug. Now, like all good production, if you're prepared, you're going to do a lot more production. And when preparing, what I mean is you pre-measure out the clay that you need to make a tile, or your whatever piece of work you're working on. And if you need to make 50 pieces, then you need to make 50 pugs. Have those ready to go, and boy, your production will go so fast. So we'll take a pug of clay, and we're going to put just a piece of plastic film on it just to keep the clay from sticking to the mallet, making a mess. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just tap the clay to fill the cavity. And when I say tap, that's all we need to do. We don't want to do any pounding. We don't want to break our die. Besides, it's not necessary. Now, we're going to take our scraper, and using it just like a squeegee, we're going to scrape off the excess, and this tile is done. It's made. Now, can you make a tile any quicker or any faster? Now would be a good time for you to take, if you have a logo or your company name, address, whatever, most of you could have like on a rubber stamp, just go ahead and stamp your logo, your company name in the back of the tile. This would be the time to do it because this tile is now done and you're not going to see the bottom of this tile for a while. So what we have to do is put a catch board there, we turn it upside down so gravity can do its work. And when we turn the air on, we're going to only count to like 3 or 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn the air off. And we have a beautiful tile. And that is a beautiful tile. Now one thing I want you to look at is look how nice and clean this is. There's very little work to do before you put this in a kiln to fire it. Very little cleanup. And if you find that you're not getting good edges, it's because you're not cleaning this good enough with your scraper. The better you do that with your scraper, the cleaner your edges. And I got to tell you, it's a beautiful piece of tile. It doesn't get any easier than that. Now, I told you earlier that, or maybe I didn't, that I've done as many as 204-inch tiles in an hour. Okay? Now, if you do one every 20 seconds, that can get you to 180 an hour. Now, of course, that's a lot of work, but can be done. So, what I would like you to do, if you can, let's make one and have you put a little stopwatch on it, or maybe a second hand on your watch, and let's see what happens. We'll see how long it takes us to make one. Okay? Ready? Now, how long did that take? I promise you that didn't take more than 20 seconds. Okay, it doesn't get any easier than that. Now, you can repeat this process just that quickly, okay? Now, the faster you're able to move all of these things and to tap your clay into your cavity, the faster you're going to work, the more pieces you're going to make. Now, if you're making even 100 an hour, I promise you, you're going to pay for this unit in an hour or 2 hours worth of work. The clay isn't that expensive. The unit certainly is not that expensive because other presses on the market cost you $5,000, $10,000 or more. Been there, done that. I've owned those things. And nothing compares to the ease of the Texas Tiler. All right, let's go try it one more time. How long does it take? Doesn't take very long. The more you work with the unit, the easier it gets. Okay. So, I got to tell you, if you need to do big numbers, production, have you ever had the opportunity to get a big job, but you really couldn't do it because you didn't have the capability, or that it was going to take so long that it almost wasn't worth it? Now that's possible. Now you can take those big jobs, you can make that big money, and you go to the bank happy. Okay, now, I told you that we were going to try something else, is you don't need to just make tiles, or you don't want to just make tiles. You want to make something else. Here's how we do it. Take out the locking screw, disconnect our air, take the die out, and replace it with whatever we want to do next. Locking screw back, reconnect our air. I don't know how many seconds it took to replace this die, but now we're ready to go. The only thing we need is water. Now we want to make sure that this die has been sitting up for a while, so it's probably fairly dry. Remember, we have to have water. Okay, so load it up. Sometimes if you've got a die that's been sitting around for a month or 2 months, I'll take it and I'll put it under a faucet and just run water over it for a minute or two. Now, since this is a very small piece, we're just going to take some small pieces of clay, fit them in like so. Okay. Now this thing makes beautiful crosses. Now, since this is a multi-cavity mold, we don't want to try to do all 3 pieces at once. So we're going to just scrape them one at a time. Now remember, the better you clean it with a scraper, the less work you're going to have to do. When it dries, and you get ready to put it into the kiln. Okay. I hope we add enough water to it. Okay, we had one piece. Let's try to get it out. We got a piece that didn't get enough water. But take a look at this. There's some beautiful crosses. Beautiful crosses. Now, this mold, or this die, can accommodate probably as many as 6 small ones and 1 big one, or maybe 3 big ones by themselves. So you can do multiples, and this thing will really pay off. Okay, now, as I mentioned, we're going to have a separate video on how to make your own dies, because that's really important. You get your dies made, you're going to save a lot of money. You're going to save a lot of money. All right, now you want to learn how to make these dies because they're quite inexpensive and not hard to do. But check our video, and we also have some PDF tutorials online. And all you have to do is go to our website, which is www.cowtownceramics.com. Okay, or you can call us. We'll be happy to answer all of your questions. Our number is 800-794-5586. That completes this portion of the Texas Tiler, and thank you very much.